So welcome to episode 5 of the podcast, A Year of Writing. This is a podcast about productivity, writing and marketing. And today I wanted to talk to you about why reading is so important to everyone that writes. And the topics that we're going to go through today are 5 reasons why you should read more. Number 1 is that it makes you a better writer. Number 2, you get ideas from reading. Number 3, you learn story structure. Number 4, you improve your language. And number 5, you become more empathic by reading. Let's deep dive into these 5 reasons. The reason why reading makes you a better writer is because everything you read influences what you write. And the more you read, the more you learn about the art of writing. You can learn different techniques from other writers, like how to do world building from J.K. Rowling, or how to write super thrilling stories from Dan Brown. It also teaches you how, when you read, you can analyze the way different authors do stuff, like how do they create dynamic dialogue, how do they create the faster pace in the story, what kind of plot turns do they use, and how do they solve problems that show up in the manuscript. Reading also familiarizes you with different styles of writing, and it can also make you think, like, could I have written this? Could I have written this better? And if you think that you could have written the story better, that is a way that can actually motivate you to write a great story, which is awesome. And it makes you, because you can learn from their mistakes instead of making them yourself. And the books we read as children influences what kind of books we read and like, and what kind of styles we write when we get older. And by learning from the masters, by reading some of the masters' books, they become your unofficial mentors. And if you read a lot of great books, then you can be mentored by some of the greatest authors in the world. Number 2, you get ideas from reading. You can get ideas on how to solve plot holes when you read other people's manuscripts, other people's books. And it helps with research, like if you want to learn about a specific time period or a specific thing, read other stories that take place in that particular part of time. And it also encourages your imagination. I love this quote. A reader lives 1,000 lives before she dies. A person who does not read only lives one. And I completely agree. The more we read, the more our imagination becomes alive, and it's like we merge with the characters in the book. And that, at least for me, is super inspiring. And I get a lot of ideas from it. And another quote from one of the great masters of writing, Stephen King, is, "Reading is at the creative center of the writer's life. If you do not have time to read, you do not have time or the tools to write. It's as simple as that." Reading also improves your vocabulary. If you read books, you will encounter words you don't understand, and you will have to look them up. But the more you read and the more words you have, it's like getting more tools into your toolbox, which you can use later, which you later can use in your manuscripts. And one thing that I do when I find a quote that I like, or a sentence that I think is very beautiful, is that I highlight it and I actually save it into an app called Readwise, which has all the highlights from both fiction and non-fiction, and so I can go back to it and look at it again later. And in physical books, I do actually also highlight with a pen and set like post-it notes and stuff, because I love reading and I want to learn from other great writers and become as good as they are, or better. And another way that reading improves your language is that you get to study grammar in a context. Because I'm not sure, but at least for me, I understand how a sentence should look, and I know what's right and wrong, but I'm not that good at saying what an adverb is or what a verb is. I don't know all the words for it or what to say, but I know that in context, when I see a sentence, I can tell you if it's right or wrong. So that's a great way for you to improve your writing, is to read more. Reading also makes you more empathic. So there was a study at the New School of New York that found evidence that reading fiction actually improves people's way to relate to other people and feel more empathic towards them, and to understand what other people are thinking and feeling. And I mean, this is awesome because through fiction, we can actually, we can see the world through other people's eyes. We can experience what it's like to be another gender, have another sexuality, another ethnicity, and like experience stuff that we would not be able to experience. Words on a page can actually introduce you to what it's like to lose a child, what it's like living in a war zone, what it's like being a refugee, what it's like being poor. And this makes us more empathic towards other people that has been through this. It helps us influence and relate to other people in the world. One thing that I've found is that when you read, sometimes you learn about human psychology, but if you reverse that, when you write, you have to understand human psychology to be able to create good, dynamic, three-dimensional characters. Because you can't just have a character that's, all through, say, a good person. Because no one in the real world is like that. Everyone has flaws. Everyone has something that drives them. Everyone has, both good and bad sides. And this is really important to understand when you write. And some of the excuses I've heard from other writers when they say that they don't read is some people say that they don't have time to read. Well, and I tell them that, well, if you don't have time to read, then you don't have time to write. You can make time to read. You can listen to an audiobook on your commute to, or you can read a book on your commute to work. You can, I don't know, you can choose to read before bed instead of watching Netflix. Or, honestly, go into your phone and look how much time you spend on different apps. Do you need to spend 1 or 2 hours on TikTok every day? Or could you use one of those hours for reading? In the end, we choose what we spend our time on, and not having time means that you don't prioritize reading, because we can always make time for the things that really matters to us. And I think that if you want to become a great writer, you should read, because in the end, reading is what got us to want to become writers. And some writers, they claim that when they are writing, when they're in a manuscript, they don't want to be influenced by other writers. They don't want to be influenced by their style or whatever. And this is also something that I think is... I don't buy it, to be honest. Because in today's digital world, where we get entertainment wherever we go, you will, whether you read or not, you will be influenced by other things. You will be influenced by the TV you watch, the series you stream, what you read in the paper. So, you would have to go completely offline not to be influenced by others. So I don't think that not reading will help, to be honest. So, yeah, sorry, I don't buy it. To conclude this episode, reading is one of the most important parts of becoming a great writer. And I would also say that if you want to become a great writer, you need to understand what is expected of you within the genre that you're writing. So let's say I'm writing a romance novel. I need to understand what makes a great romance novel. What do I need to have? I need to have a meet cute. I need to have a build up. I do need to have a plot turn where everything goes south and they may not end up together. And then, if it's a chick lit, then I need to have a happy ending. And once I know the tools, since I've read a lot of romance and chick lit books, then I can use them and maybe even sometimes break the rules to create a great story. But yeah, to be able to know that, I still need to read a lot, and I think you should do too. And yeah, my reading goal for the year is to read 100 books. I'm currently more than halfway through, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. I read a lot of physical books, ebooks, and listen to audiobooks. And I read within different genres, both fiction and non-fiction. And if you have any advice on, well, if you have any tips on great books that I should read, please send them to me. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at blackdiary.se. So yeah, I hope this encourages you to read more and to find time. I know it can be hard sometimes, of course, but I need to be frank and say that in the end it's also a choice that you make, not to prioritize reading, to prioritize something else instead of reading. Because most of us don't work 24/7. I hope you liked this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe, it really helps me. Have a great day. Bye.